Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So we're just over halfway through 2023 at this point, so I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do kind of like a mid-year review of the movies and just kind of the state of cinema right now. The format of this that makes the most sense to me is just a month-by-month basis, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with January. Now, usually January is like the dumpster fire of the year. It's where a lot of studios dump their films that nobody really cares about. You know, they need to make a little bit of money, but usually January doesn't have a whole lot of good stuff. But this year was really different. We got movies like Megan, we got Plane, which was just a really fun action movie. We got Missing that I just loved. I really enjoyed that movie. We got a movie that really divided audiences with Skinamarink. If you haven't checked out my video kind of talking about my feelings on that, you can go ahead and check it out here. So it was a pretty unexpected month for me personally. Usually there's nothing in January, but there was plenty to love. Now you did get movies such as House Party or You People on streaming that really missed the mark. But for the most part, January was a surprisingly good month. The MVP of that month, I gotta hand it over to Megan, just because that movie cost absolutely nothing to make. It was a really good time. It totally understood what its purpose was. You know, it wasn't going for the big slasher sort of movie. It was kind of like a horror comedy, and it's spurring off a franchise. We're gonna get more Megan. I really enjoyed the movie. If you haven't checked it out, you can, I'm sure, stream it somewhere. It's gotta be on demand at this point. Now, as we move into February, there were a few movies that I had extreme high hopes for between Cocaine Bear, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Knock at the Cabin. And I gotta say, February was a bit of an underwhelming month for me. You know, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania came out, and it just wasn't as good as I think any of us hoped it would be. I do think it's a little underrated. It's not as bad as people say it is, but it still ain't good. Cocaine Bear, you know, it was a fun time. I probably would have had a better time if I went and saw it with friends, but just It really wasn't entirely for me now that I'm looking back on it several months later. It's kind of forgettable. I probably won't ever watch it again unless I'm in a setting where I'm with a bunch of friends or something. Knock at the Cabin, I actually really enjoyed. You know, the further I get from that movie, the more kind of forgettable it becomes. You know, I'm not gonna be sitting here at the end of the year thinking about Knock at the Cabin, which is kind of disappointing. But you know what? It was a solid thriller from M. Night Shyamalan, which, you know, given some of the movies that guy's made in the past, that's really all you can ask for. February had a couple of other major releases between the third Magic Mike movie, which no one knew was coming out. It made no money. Nobody really cared about it. I didn't see it. And then you had 80 for Brady, which, again, I didn't go see it. There were a lot of memes about it online. And it made a good amount of money, too, for a movie about a bunch of 80-year-olds going to the Super Bowl to see Tom Brady. But yeah, February was a bit of a step down for me compared to January. The MVP of the month, I mean, I guess it's Knock at the Cabin, just because it was the best movie I saw. March was a really interesting month because we got some movies that were absolutely amazing between John Wick 4 and Dungeons and Dragons. Two totally different films. You know, John Wick 4 was exactly what you hoped for from the John Wick franchise, and Dungeons and Dragons was a surprisingly good time. Way more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. If you haven't seen it yet, it's totally worth your time. It's just a lot of fun. We had Creed 3 come out, which was a really solid iteration in the Creed franchise. Scream 6 came out and it made a lot of money for its budget. Now, I'll be honest, slasher films aren't really for me, so I actually didn't go see Scream 6, but from what I hear, it was a really well-received film. But you know, with the successes, you have some movies that underperformed. You had 65 starring Adam Driver come out, and that thing flopped hard between critics and audiences. It's on Netflix now. Last I checked, it was the #1 movie on there. So, you know, good for that film. Operation Fortune came out, and from everyone that I've talked to that's went and seen the movie, they actually quite enjoy it. I didn't get the opportunity to go see it. It underperformed to the box office. Maybe it's on streaming now. I'll have to check it out soon because I really like Guy Ritchie films. You had a couple streaming movies come out between Murder Mystery 2 and Tetris. I missed both of them. Tetris looked interesting with Taron Egerton. I just don't have Apple TV. And then I didn't like the first Murder Mystery, so I didn't watch this one. But one of the biggest takeaways from this month was Shazam! Fury of the Gods. being a huge bomb, like the worst performing comic book movie ever, like major comic book movies. It flopped insanely hard, and DC, we're gonna get into The Flash for June, don't you worry, we're getting to The Flash. But DC is just proving more and more that they just need a hard reboot. And that's what it seems like Peter Safran and James Gunn are doing as they move forward with Superman Legacy. But yeah, for now, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, it didn't even crack 150 million, I think. That's just pathetic. And I'm someone that follows movies. I live for this stuff. I love movies. I didn't go out and see Shazam 2 because there were other movies that I wanted to go see. The marketing for the movie just didn't really appeal to me, and I loved the first Shazam movie. They didn't give me a reason to go out and see it. And unfortunately, because they are rebooting DC and because of DC's bad reputation right now, audiences, the mass audiences, just didn't care about this or The Flash. So, March, you had some big hitters, you had some major losers, but for now, the MVP for me has got to go to Dungeons & Dragons. I know that it underperformed in the box office, it flopped, but that movie, I went into Creed 3 and John Wick 4 expecting a good movie. Dungeons & Dragons just was the biggest surprise for me in March. I absolutely loved the movie, and it's probably going to find its way into my top 10 at the end of the year at this rate. I'm hoping and praying that even though it didn't make money, they decide to move forward with a sequel. That makes absolutely no sense, but a guy can hope and dream, I guess. April was kind of a weird month. Obviously, the big headline is the Super Mario movie being the highest grossing movie of the year still to this date. I think it's sitting at $1.2 billion. I went and saw the movie, and I learned within 5 minutes that I needed to just turn my brain off and just enjoy it for what it was. It's not going to be Shakespeare, it's the Mario movie. I'm not a huge gamer, but it seems like the people that are gamers really enjoyed all the Easter eggs in the movie. I thought that it was a lot of fun. Will I be itching to see it again anytime soon? Probably not, but hey, what are you gonna do? It was a fun time. And it gave parents something to take their kids to, which is ultimately what it's there for. I went and saw a couple of excellent movies that month, specifically Air and Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. I loved both of those films. Both of them kind of flopped in the box office. Air is one of those movies, though, that I could see being successful over time. I believe it's on Prime Video now. I've rewatched it since I saw it in theaters, and it was just as good the second time. It's seriously such an amazing movie, but I'm also kind of a Nike fanboy. So for me, knowing the story, I've read Phil Knight's book. Knowing the story of Nike, I just found it to be a really interesting movie, a great return to the director's chair for Ben Affleck. If you haven't seen it, again, I think it's on Prime Video, you can go watch it now. And then The Covenant, I could tell from the trailer, was gonna be really good. Jake Gyllenhaal is very picky with his projects, so I had high hopes for this. It was a more traditional movie than he typically goes with. It made no money. I absolutely loved the movie. I thought it was a very compelling story. Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing in it. So that was probably my second favorite movie of the month behind Air. You had, a movie in Renfield come out that, again, flopped in the box office. It's becoming a trend lately. That I thought was kind of a mixed bag. I have a review for it up on my channel as well. But Nicolas Cage, just getting that performance out of Nicolas Cage made it worth it. Absolutely slaughtered it as Dracula. Seriously, if you guys are on the fence about seeing Renfield, just see it for Nick Cage's performance. On the topic of flops at the box office, there were a lot of them in April. We had Big George Foreman, which royally flopped. I mean, that thing, it was kind of hard to watch that thing flop as hard as it did. I think it's pronounced Chevalier. Chevalier something, it's something French. That came out, it really didn't make any money. It looked like one of those movies that was kind of Oscar bait, but didn't seem like it was quite good enough to be, in play for any awards, so they just decided to dump it in April. And then Sisu, the movie that was from the producers of John Wick, came out and it flopped. That was one of those movies that I wanted to go see, but I didn't get around to, but, I'm not really knocking myself for. I'll get to it at some point. There were a couple of streaming movies that came out between Ghosted and Wendy and Peter Pan or Wendy, whatever it's called, that it didn't seem like anybody liked. Ghosted was specifically panned by critics. So I'm not even going to waste my time with that one. I just hope that Chris Evans moves away from the streaming movies for now. I want to see that guy in like an actual movie at this point, because seriously, at this point, some of the streaming action movies are becoming the new VOD, where they're not good, but they're paying actors a ton of money just to be in them. It really bums me out to see Chris Evans doing all of these things. You know, I'm happy that he's getting a bag for sure, because he seems like a really nice guy. But dude, please do a good movie next. I saw Beau's Afraid and absolutely hated it. I don't walk out of movies, but I walked out of that one. It seemed to be kind of a controversial movie whenever it came out. You know, people calling others idiots and that they just don't get it if, they didn't like it. Let me just be straight. I get what Beau's Afraid is about, and I can respect that the director put himself out there like that. But I hated the movie. It just made no sense. I just absolutely hated it. It's the only movie that I've walked out of, I think, in my life at this point. I can't remember the last time I've walked out of a movie, but it got to a point where I just couldn't sit there anymore. And then a couple of movies that I missed here. Evil Dead Rise. Again, I'm not really one for the slasher kind of gore horror movie, so I skipped it. But, that one got a huge return in the box office. And then Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I heard that it was great. It didn't seem like it was for me from the trailer, so I skipped it. But apparently it's pretty good. I should probably watch it whenever it comes out on streaming. MVP of April, by far, is Air. That was just far and away my favorite movie of the month. It didn't do well in the box office, but it's one of those movies that I think is going to gain a good reputation with time, and people are going to be talking about it by the end of the year. All right, now as we get into May, I'm just going to hold my mic like this now. Biggest thing, Guardians 3 came out. We got a good Marvel movie. Marvel seriously needed a base hit, and this thing was a home run. I absolutely loved Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It was a huge win for that franchise. It wrapped up the trilogy of the Guardians of the Galaxy very nicely. It was a highly emotional movie. I definitely got to get a little teary-eyed there at the end of the movie. I love the way that it wrapped things up, and it was just a really fantastic movie. Made them a ton of money, and Marvel needed the win after Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. A lot of forgettable movies came out in May, such as Love Again, Book Club 2, which is one of those movies that looks like, it was just an excuse for the actors to go on vacation and get paid to do it. You had the reboot of White Men Can't Jump starring Jack Harlow, which didn't look any good. And you got a couple comedies there at the end of the month between About My Father, which looked like one of those movies that De Niro does just to send another one of his grandkids, or I guess children, because they're young enough, to send them off to college. And The Machine starring Burt Kreischer, which, again, to me, it didn't really interest me. I went ahead and I skipped that one. But we did get a couple of really good smaller movies between Sanctuary and You Hurt My Feelings. Again, You Hurt My Feelings, I think, is the last video that I posted on this channel. And I loved that movie. It was a fantastic comedy from Julia Louis-Dreyfus. The further I get away from it, the more I love it. It's just a really solid 90-minute watch. I don't think it's in theaters anymore, but I'm sure you can check it out on streaming soon. Definitely do that. We had The Little Mermaid come out at the end of the month, and I absolutely loved it. It had been so long since I had watched the first Little Mermaid, I actually forgot a lot of the plot. So there were some twists and turns in there that I didn't see coming just because I wasn't familiar with the story again. Halle Bailey was fantastic as Ariel. I loved Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. A really fantastic family movie. I really had a good time there. I went to an Alamo Drafthouse and watched that one. So I had a little bit of a dinner. I had the buffalo wings. It was just really solid. Fast X came out, and it wasn't good at all. I did not like that movie at all. Again, I have a review for that here on my channel, so if you want to check that out, please do. It was just really a terrible movie. I don't know what they're going to do with Fast 11. Apparently that comes out in a couple years. If you watched it, good for you. I respect everyone that worked on that movie, because it's a miracle to get any movie made, but I couldn't stand Fast 10. I thought it was really stupid. MVP of the month is Guardians 3, because I'd be crazy if it was anything other than that. All right, now we're getting into probably the most interesting month, which was last month, June. I mean, Across the Spider-Verse came out, and it was amazing. Across the Spider-Verse has like the best animation I've ever seen in a movie. It was a fantastic story. It had been 4.5 years since the first Spider-Verse movie, so everyone had high hopes. They had a lot that they had to build off of. They were coming off of winning an Oscar, and you know what? It came out, made a ton of money, was critically loved, audiences loved it. Just a huge win. I cannot wait for the next one. There were a lot of other major movies released last month between the new Transformers movie, The Flash, we had the new Indiana Jones movie. I saw the new Transformers and I'll be honest, I didn't love it. The last fight was amazing. I loved Optimus Prime in that movie. I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10. I didn't really love it all that much. It was better than some of the other crap that Transformers has released over the last 10 years. But again, it just wasn't really for me. I did like what they teased at the end of the movie, though. If you've seen the movie, you know. The Flash flopped really hard. It's a huge loss for Warner Brothers, a huge loss for DC. Maybe this is a hot take. I loved The Flash. I really, really enjoyed it. The first critique that I'm sure everyone is going to have for me is the VFX. But here's my thing. At the beginning of the movie, they established what the VFX were going to look like with The Flash running. So I decided, instead of being critical of it, I was going to roll with it. I was going to roll with the punches. Do I wish that they looked more like Zack Snyder's Justice League? Of course. But you know what? I rolled with it, and I had a lot of fun in the movie. I really enjoyed seeing Michael Keaton in there. I thought the girl who played Supergirl was fantastic. Yeah, I really loved The Flash. It flopped really hard, again, proving with that and Shazam! Fury of the Gods that DC needs a hard reboot. So best of luck to James Gunn and Peter Safran. They came out with the casting of the new Superman, so I'm pretty excited for that one. Apparently, I forget his name, but Castle, I'll put his picture up here whenever I talk about him, is going to be the Green Lantern in the new Superman movie, so I'm really excited to see what they have brewing up there for DC. I saw Indiana Jones a couple weeks ago, and kind of similar to Transformers, I was kind of mixed on it. I don't know. I think I might have liked them about the same amount. It was pretty meh for me. I didn't really love the movie. I liked some of the performances in there, including Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge I thought was good in it. I love seeing Boyd Holbrook show up and stuff. But for a movie that was directed by James Mangold, Indiana Jones' last movie with Harrison Ford, I was just expecting more. And so I didn't love it, and it came out and it made $6 million in its first weekend, which was not good. The biggest indicator that this movie was going to flop was after Disney premiered it at Cannes, and it just was not well received. Originally, this movie was going to make like $100 million, but after, not being well received at Cannes, it dipped down to 60. So huge loss there for Disney and Lucasfilm. I hate to see this for Harrison Ford, but it just is what it is. I almost forgot, we also got Elemental. That movie has not been doing well financially at all. And there are a lot of BS reasons why people are saying that it's flopping, but the real reason is because Disney has been royally screwing Pixar over the last couple years. They have not been releasing their movies out in theaters. Or if they have, they've been putting them on Disney Plus at the same time. They have conditioned audiences and families to believe that it is going to be on Disney Plus within a month, 2 months. So they're not going to spend the movie out in the theaters to go see a Pixar movie. Lightyear came out last year, and it was very underwhelming for the movie. I straight up fell asleep watching it whenever I watched it on Disney Plus like a month later. But they had a movie like Turning Red come out, which was fantastic. I love Turning Red. And they just put it straight to Disney Plus. And before that, the year before, they were releasing the Pixar movies on Disney Plus as well. And it's just really upsetting. Because now everybody's saying that Pixar sucks or whatever. But the truth is, yeah, Pixar has come out with like Lightyear, which was underwhelming, but in the last few years they made Onward, which was a fantastic movie, just screwed by the pandemic because it came out in February of 2020. They made Turning Red, which is a great movie, which was screwed by their parent company, Disney, and now they made Elemental, which it seems like people really enjoy, but families aren't going to go because it's going to be on streaming in a month. So why are they going to spend $100 to go to the theater? I need to go see it. I want to go support Pixar in that movie. But yeah, it just sucks to see because I love Pixar as a studio. They've been making some of my favorite movies ever for the last 25 years. So, I want to see them succeed. Yeah, they need a big hit right now more than ever. We had the Jennifer Lawrence comedy come out, No Hard Feelings. I haven't gone and seen it. It doesn't really look like my thing. I probably won't see it in theaters, to be honest with you, but maybe I'll watch it somewhere along the line before the end of the year. Past Lives came out. I saw that like a week and a half ago, and it's an extremely well-made movie. I can see why a lot of people love it, why it's in a lot of people's top fives. For me, I just didn't like it as much as a lot of other critics out there. Again, really well-made movie. The performances are fantastic. The way that the movie's shot is great. Just the movie itself is something that it's just not going to find its way into my top 10. I thought it was good, but it just wasn't my thing. Oh, gotta talk about Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. I loved that movie. I absolutely hated his last movie, The French Dispatch, but I've enjoyed a lot of his movies that he's made in the past, so I was very relieved that I loved Asteroid City, even though the end of the movie kind of felt like a cop-out. Again, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But I really loved that movie, and Wes Anderson is back on the board for me. MVP of June, Across the Spider-Verse. Easy. Now, as we move into the second half of the year, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the industry. The writer's strike is going on right now. It's been going on for months now at this point, and it's extremely troubling for me now. I am a big Big Brother fan, and I got moved to early August because a lot of networks, like we saw in 2008, are going to start filling their schedule with reality television. Stranger Things filming was pushed back because of the writer's strike. Apparently SAG might go on strike like literally tomorrow at the time of filming this. So if they go on strike, it's a big problem. The writers going on strike is already a big problem, but now the actors going on strike, we're gonna have some issues. So all I gotta say is we have some great movies coming out for the rest of this year. Enjoy them while you can, because there's gonna be a stretch there, maybe in a year and a half, maybe in 2 years, where there aren't that many good movies, and that's because we don't have writers working, and we're about to not have actors working. So thanks, studios. But that's all that I gotta say for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and subscribe for more.